Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Rona Biju, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Before we dive right into the webinar, I would like to give a brief introduction about our company. ITC Accounting and Tax Consultancy is one of the top and most reliable tax agency firms in the UAE. In a short span of time, our team mastered how to give clients the best tax solutions. You can expect an uncompromised attitude when it comes to quality and professionalism. We deliver a sleek and professional outcome that sets us apart from the competition. With the leadership of Mr. Ahmed Sharfuddin, we've already positioned ourselves as a VAT and excise tax specialist in the market. We have a fast growing team of qualified and dedicated professionals with innovative and commercial approaches to meet today's highly challenging business environment. By bringing the best team at your service, highly experienced tax and finance specialists in the industry, ITC will continue to create long term relationships with various businesses by having the ability to deliver as exceptional service. As a testimony to our strategic improvement approach, most of the customers we serve are generated of referrals and repeated businesses. Moving on, I would like to give a brief introduction about our panelists for today's webinar. Mrs. Nikita Bhandari. Nikita is a seasoned tax professional with close to a decade of experience in a variety of tax-related fields. She has a well-rounded understanding of the industry and has honed the skills through years of hands-on experience. Her expertise in tax advisory and pre-audits has made her a valuable asset to the team, as she is able to handle the most important cases and clients with utmost professionalism. Nikita is known for her attention to detail and her strong work ethic. She takes pride in doing her homework and approaching every task with a dedication to getting it right. Her approach has earned her the trust of clients and the respect of colleagues across all departments. She's a leader within the team and takes the time to mentor and teach her colleagues, helping to raise the overall level of knowledge and skills within the organization. With Nikita on the team, clients can rest assured that their tax needs will be handled with care and expertise.
Thank you, Rona, for this warm introduction, and I welcome each and everybody of you who is attending this webinar for joining us for this information insights on the education sector. So going forward, I would just like to brief about today's webinar. That is, why have we chosen about such a niche sector, that is an education sector, for the regarding the VAT implications? Is that now we see that every sector has been having certain few concerns in regarding to their operational, in according to the tax implications and the do's and don'ts. Since we are all very well aware of that, being the 5-year implementation has been completed. It's about to get complete since we are almost on the end of the year. So some have got tax audit notifications. Lucky those who have not. Hopefully, touch wood, that they don't get as well. But yet we must be very well aware if there is people who are not knowing about what the do's and don'ts are for the education sector, what are the exact tax implications, and what will be the ones that during a tax audit the FT people looking forward, and what you must be having your safety net in check. Okay, and if there is any further concerns that is bothering you or something, you're always there here to contact us. So moving on with the webinar, the very first is why education sector is zero rated. So as per Article 45 of the Federal Decree Law number 18 of 2022, also one insight on that, Federal Decree Law 18 is same as Federal Decree Law number 8 of 2017. It's just that is after the amendment in the month of Jan 2023. It has been renamed as Federal Decree Law number 18 of 2022. So don't worry, it's nowhere, no new different law that has been implemented. So as per Article 45 of Federal Decree Law number 18 of 2022, it specifies that the supply of educational services and related goods and services for nursery, preschool, education, higher education institution, which is owned or funded by the federal or local government, will be zero rated. So the many other services has also come under zero rated, but one of those services is the education sector. But the criteria has been very well explicitly defined that it has to be either owned. If it is not owned by the federal or local government, it must be at least funded by federal or local government. Okay, so that is why an education sector, that is a services provided by the education sector, would be straight away given zero rated, and they will not be considered as 5%. So moving further, we have the conditions that is required to meet the zero rated. Yes, education sector has been given this an added advantage that they will be considered as zero rated, not a standard rated supply. So, what are the conditions for us to meet to get into zero rated? One, as per Article 40 of the Executive Regulation of Federal Decree Law, it states that curriculum it should be through recognized curriculum by the competent authority. Okay, so if the competent authority, I mean the one who has the authority in the education sector to finalize or to approve the curriculum what the students must be studying in the educational institutions. So that's a competent authority, just in case you might be thinking so. So firstly, the curriculum must be recognized. Second, the education institution where they are supposed to impart the services to the students must be again recognized by such a competent authority, by which is regulating in the education sector in UAE. Third is the higher education, which is either owned or funded by the federal local government, or it receives more than 50% of annual funding directly from the federal or local government. So now in the previous slide, we saw that the articles definitely specifies that it should be their own or funded. Here, it technically specifies how much percentage of funding is required. That is, if it is more than 50% of the funding by the local or the federal government, then it will qualify into the education sector that is zero rated. If it is less than that, it won't qualify for the same. Okay, and this is for the higher education institution, but either ways also 50% or more is something that is given the stakes. Okay, then whether supply is directly related to the provision of a zero-rated educational service, supply directly related to provision of a zero-rated education service means that which is related to imparting the education, like with the syllabus, in terms of the improvising the wisdom or imparting the knowledge as education institution is responsible for. That is the only for those services there is a provision of zero rated comes up to. Then it is printed and digital reading material related to recognized curriculum of education shall be zero rated. So again, if there is any printed material, since the age is going digitized, now people prefer doing with the tabs rather than being books with the books. So definitely this, if there is anything which is recognized by the institution that of any printed and digital reading material, then that also can go under zero rated. So these are the top 5 conditions that will make it qualify for any education institution or educational services to be going zero rated in the VAT applications. Going further, services that are services that are exception to zero rated supplies. So now every service is not considered or allowed, as we saw in the previous slide. There are only 5 conditions. But apart from that, if there are any services provided in education sector, then that would not be considered as zero rated. Rather, it shall go for a straight standard rated supply of service. So in the very first, that is services supplied by the education institution to the persons who are not enrolled in the educational institution. This in a layman language means that if it is a not recognized educational institution by competent authority, like the private coaching classes or a private educational institution, which definitely imparts, it's also doing giving the same service, but just the term of recognition is not there, and it is only doing by means of giving the private service, then definitely that is an exception to it, and it's a standard supply of service. Second is any goods other than educational materials provided to students by educational institution. So any goods, which means anything, any like which is not recognized by the not recognized. I mean to say some gift or something like that, or okay. Sometimes if the educational institutions are providing you some sports goods or something, just in a hypothetical situation to the students if they're extremely good in sports considering, so if that it is provided by the educational institutions to its students, then that is again not part of the educational service, so that will be again 5%. Again, it's a hypothetical situation. because I have never come across some such kind of a situation in reality when we have done an education sector's audit. But just giving you a hypothetical example, just in case if you have any ideas or suggestions or any such kind of cases you might see, just please free to tell us. Third will be supply of uniform and clothing. Again, uniforms and clothing are considered to be a standardized supply of services. I understand that it is required by a educational institution. It is for the education sector, but again, those are the very not necessary, one of the not necessary conditions for getting it zero rated. Thus, uniform and clothing, yes, that would be 5%. Usage of electronic devices related to educational services, anything which is not as per the recognized curriculum and you're providing the electronic devices, again, it's 5% straight away. Food and beverages, we all know that we do have canteens and all that serves or provides the students, the teachers, the faculties, foods and beverages for the refreshments. Those kind of services which is provided by the educational institution, that is also 5% taxable. Field trips. Okay, now field trips has two conditions. One, if it is directly related to curriculum of an education service. Just in the case, if you have to have a factory visit, just in order to understand how exactly a bread is made, a hypothetical situation again, or how exactly a furniture is built, or something like that, something very informative, or a scientific tour to the students, just to enhance their knowledge and give them the first hand experience of how exactly it is made. That isn't something with the curriculum. So those kind of trips are consideredly zero rated. Okay, but if it is a recreational ones, like you're just taking out just to have a relax and a chill time, like a picnics and all, water parks visits and all, but the schools, it's only for relaxation and entertainment purpose, those will be 5%. Okay. Next is extracurricular activities provided by or through the educational institution for a fee additional to the fee of education service. Now, extracurricular activities, like if you're going to get a basketball program or some cricket program or some volleyball program, which requires your child to attend some additional classes or some art classes, which requires them to pay an additional fee apart from whatever tuition fees that is paying to the school, then again that would be straight away classified as a standard rated supply of service that cannot come under the zero rated supply of service. Then supply of membership in a student organization. So membership, how exactly it is, like you have some kind of a clubs or some houses where the person is supposed to come, like join in, like the music club, and the students are supposed to join in there. Again, those kind of clubs are not supported as per the educational institution services. That is something very extra, just in order to enhance their skill sets or something. That is again will be 5% taxable service. So those are the 8 list which are exception to the zero rated supply of services going forward. So now we understood what exactly are the conditions which fulfill for you to have an education sector to have a zero rated supply of service. We also saw a certain supply of services which do not qualify for a zero rated supply of services. Okay. Now, in case of place of supply of service, now as per the VAT law, it usually claims that the place of supply of services shall be the place of residence of the supplier. That is, um, if my supplier is based outside UAE, if I'm getting something here, then again it's an import. Okay, if it's within UAE, it's local. So definitely it goes a place of residence of the supplier in the service sector. But now, in case in the education, since it's such a noble and a social cause, there's an exception to the Article 29 states that the place of supplies for special cases, that is, any educational services provided, would be where the services are performed. So it's not like where the supplier is, it is basically where the services are performed. So services, if it is performed within UAE, it's local. If it's provided outside the UAE, the zero rated or out of scope. So this we can discuss with the following charts, which is made very simplified in order to understand how exactly this place of supply thing will work. So here it is, if the educational services provided through online classes within UAE. So now we know since 2019 that COVID has struck, and many things have gone online, like the education, the corporate culture, everybody think online. So if any education services are provided through online classes within UAE, so that would be zero rated if it's through a recognized education institution, as we seen in the conditions of the zero rated. But if it is not, then it would be 5%. Second, if the educational services are provided to students outside UAE by online classes. So now, if the institution is providing online services to the students who are based typically outside, something like a lecture or something, so that would be again export of service. So that will be 0% because it is given outside the UAE. And as per the special case, it says whether services are performed. Your services are performed outside UAE, thus it will be zero rated. And since within UAE it is going outside, it's called export of service. Third scenario is whether training or services are obtained from an expert related to the education services. So now here, considering you have an expert faculty who's not residing in UAE, who's outside the UAE, and you really want them to share their personal experience, or they have an expertise in certain subjects, you want to enrich your students with that kind of an experience, and you arrange an online meeting on that base on site, then that would be again import of service, because again the services are performed here but the services are obtained from outside, so it will be an import of service. So here it will be disclosed in box number 3, that is supplies with reverse charge mechanism, and you can claim back it in the box number 10. Okay. Fourth is if an educational faculty member is providing service, sorry, is providing service to the education institute outside UAE, that is again on site. Now here the condition is the expert faculty again visits outside UAE. He really goes, like some we have heard that Harvard universities and all, they do call certain teachers and all in higher education, I mean. So whenever your faculty is going from here to the other university or the other educational institution to impart their knowledge or their experience set in order to enrich their knowledge, that would be an out of scope thing, because again where the services are performed, but here the person is physically visiting there and he is providing such kind of a service over there, so services are provided outside UAE, thus it would be an out of scope thing. Okay, so we have tried to simplify the conditions, how exactly the VAT implications could be if it is within UAE, if it's outside UAE, if we are going outside UAE and imparting, if we are receiving services from outside the UAE. So it would be easier for you all to understand the VAT implications and accordingly disclose the transactions in your VAT return. Hope this was helpful. Coming to it, so that is use of bus transport for students. So now as we know that the UAE, the VAT law under the exempt services, it says that local passenger transport is an exempt supply of service. So now you may think how exactly this collides with the passenger service transport in this for the schools. So here what exactly is that the school buses also actually acts like a passenger service. They pick up the students from a specific spots as decided, like with the sequence of the spots and all, and they drop them to the school. Again, they pick up from the school and they drop them to the respective residences or the respective spots wherever it was agreed. So thus this qualifies for a local passenger transport or service. And since it qualifies for a local passenger transport or service, it would be an exempt supply of service. Okay. So that is again specified as per the Article 45 for Federal Decree Law number 8, Executive Regulation of Federal Decree Law number 8 2017. And that's what for business bus transport for students is. Now, my point here to highlight this was we had one of the concerns coming up that our passenger service transport to students qualify for the passenger transport service. But what if we have a contract with those kind of when you're leasing the buses and all for the schools and all. See, the leasing of the buses would be something a different scenario. That would be 5% straight away standard rated, because that's for the means of transport. Here, it is the use of the bus in order for the pickup and drop of the students. Thus, it will qualify for an exempt supply of service. So, there's a two type of transactions. One is mean of transport supply, and one for the students. The means of transport or supply or service, that is when you're getting signing for hiring of a bus, that is a different supply of a service, and using that transport for catering for the convenience of the students, that is a different supply of service. Sorry, so if we are talking here right now, uses of bus to pick up and drop the student, that is exempt. But if you're coming into the contract between the bus owners or the supply of such bus, that's means of transport, that would be 5% if it's leasing or it is sales. Okay, that would not considered as exempt, even though you're using that buses for the pickup and drop of the students. So this concern I just wanted to highlight, because I've heard from many, not many, but some of the people that have been contacted through, and that's why I wanted to just clarify this point going forward. So now basically education sector, as I said, very start, it's a very niche area. There is not too much to be discussed or not too much to be analyzed. But yes, we have discussed what important conditions are, what are the exceptions to these conditions where it cannot be treated as zero rated, what are the tax implications and the disclosure of the transactions, then what exactly a school bus, since it's an important part of your career, of the education sector, so what exactly it has a role to play in it. Now going forward is the most important part, is the part of documentation. The VAT tax audit, I will little differ from the point of the education sector. It is just that the VAT tax audit is basically about documents. VAT itself is about documents. If you have the documents to prove on, if you have the documents to prove why exactly it's zero rated, it's exempt, it's standard rated, and that's how you've disclosed it, there's nothing to worry about. Because many of the clients who have got this audit notifications are freaking like, okay, now what if they'll ask, what they don't? So that's what I want to highlight, is a part of the documentation, what exactly is so important. Okay. So if it is standard rated supply of service, that's a tax invoice, what are the major points that you must have when you're issuing the invoice, like it for the standard rated supply of services, considering like I said, for the curricular trips, you're going somewhere, or forget curricular trips, we can have the auditorium rent, you're booking the sports day, you're having a big auditorium and you're leasing it to somebody else, some other school wants it, your ground, to play the sports. You'll definitely invoice them, right? You will obviously charge them for the rentals. Same way, if you have your own auditorium and you're going to give it to somebody else for some other celebrations, they do sometimes. That is how you invoice them, right? So that in that case, what exactly a standard rate supply of services should have is tax invoice, name and address of the tax registration number registrant, of the supplier, of the customer, sequential tax invoice number or unique number. It's very important whenever you're raising a tax invoice. Date of issuing the tax invoice, date of supply, description of goods, amount, any discount, the total amount, what exactly it's payable in words and its figures. Okay, that's a tax invoice. Now you will say, we are a zero rated, and it's a very common practice we see in schools is that we don't get tax invoice, we get receipts, right? Whenever a student pays a fee, so a student is paying the tuition fees while getting an admission, you get a receipt, you don't give them an invoice. That is also accepted. Why? Because in as per the zero rated, technically, as per the law, there is nowhere written that you're supposed to send a tax invoice. We, on the other hand, do ask them to keep it on a very safer end. If you can, it is good. But yes, again, a common practice all over the UAE we have seen. It's only the receipts what we get. Being a zero rated, it's okay. But if at all it is possible from your end to print such tax invoices, please do so. It's a very healthy practice. But if not, being a zero rated and being in education sector, if you have the copy and documents of these receipts, it's all fine. But again, if you have a 5% supply of service, like for uniform and clothing, or for the refreshment and anything else that you're charging an additional fee to it, please make sure you have a tax invoice printed on. And please make sure you're keeping this records of documents minimum 5 years. If you have any FT audit notification coming, please do not discard your documents, because you may never know for how many years they're asking. Usually notification, they do tell you it's from 2018 to how many years, or 2019 to how many years. If they have specified it, like uh, if tomorrow you get a notification, they mention it, I want it from September 2018 till September 2020, September 2020. Make sure you have those documents with you. Do not discard, do not throw off or dispose of any documents you feel that they don't require. Wait till the end of the year. This I'm saying because I've seen clients doing it, and now they don't have the documents. It's become hassle if they get a notification later. Okay. So that's how important the documents are. Secondly, when I say about documents, it's also about the input expenses that is you've been claiming, whatever the expenditure you have. Please make sure you retain all the documents in regards to the bills that you get from your suppliers. And be it the Salah Deva, even though I know that you're being paying on online system, you only get summaries, but make sure you get the invoices and keep it. I'm saying it through very personal experiences, what I'm having through FTA, that they do check the invoices that you have, they do check the bills of supplies that you have, are they compliant with the tax law or not. As I mentioned in the previous letter 59, those are the same points that you must check when you accept any bills from the suppliers. Okay. And whatever you expense for the business purposes, yes, you can claim it, but make sure all the invoices are very well documented, so that in case if you have an audit notification, God forbid not, but in case if you have something to lie back of, because that's the only evidence that can tell you why have you actually claimed it and for what purpose. Okay. Also, this is also one thing that people say, that physical copy storage is like impossible. There's so many invoices. We don't have so much storage space. So again, I have highlighted here that if you have an option to keep things in digitized way, if you have a perfect storage, if you have other IT network systems, then you can store things in digitized way, please go ahead for it. You can do so. It is not necessary for a physical, but a PDF will also do. Okay. So if storing for your 2018, 19 copies are difficult in a very physical copy, in a physical manner, please have everything stored in an organized, arranged manner in a soft copy basis or in a PDF basis. Okay. And yes, the important, that is authenticity of origin and integrity of the content of electronic tax invoice should be guaranteed. It should not be fake. It should, if you have some original document which is scanned and stamped and kept, perfect. So as I said, I just sum it up because I've even spoken for the claim. So again, the tax invoice should be important. The sequential tax number is the description, date of issuing tax invoice. This is also for the claim of input tax. In the amendment of 1st January 2023, they very specifically mentioned this, that tax invoices received and retained can be are allowed to be claimed for the input tax claim. Okay. Earlier, this retain word was not mentioned anywhere in the law, but after 1st Jan 2023, this word has been out and it has been told that retaining of the invoice is important in order to claim the input tax. Okay, so you just cannot say, "Oh, I had received, but it is lost." No, if you cannot retain it, you cannot claim it. It's that simple. They've made it very explicitly clear. So with this, I wrap up our webinar today for the education sector. On the screen right now, you can see a summary chart which has been made in a very concise manner. Whatever I said, whatever I've explained, though if it is not I know it is very difficult to grasp at all in just a short span of time, but this is like a cheat sheet we have, again from the FTA source site, that what exactly qualifies for zero rated, what exactly qualifies for a 5%, so that in order for your future reference, this will be really handy. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining our webinar. I hope this webinar was informative. I would love to hear through your feedback. And if there are any concerns, suggestions, something that you would like for us from any improvements, or you think that something we can help you with, please feel to contact us. The details are on the screen here. And thank you once again. I really appreciate your presence here. Have a good day.
Thank you, and a big round of virtual applause for Mrs. Nikita for sharing her expertise and insights with us today. Your valuable contribution has truly enriched our understanding. Thank you for joining us and sharing in this enriching experience. Your presence and active participation have truly made this session valuable and impactful. We look forward to connecting with you again in our future webinars. Until then, for any further queries regarding excise, VAT, or corporation tax, kindly drop us an email or give a call. The details are mentioned on the screen.